Hi, I am Lisa Kastner, and I am the founder and executive editor of Running Wild Press and RIZE Press. So, for those of you who are totally new to this, and this is my cat, or one of my cats, Margarita. She's elected to join us today. She will be in and out, I'm sure, during the course of this hour. But anyway, we started this little hoo ha, I don't know, about a year ago, a little over a year ago. And this is basically an opportunity for you, oh wonderful viewer, to ask me whatever you want. Typically, the questions are around publishing, they're around creative writing, marketing, I guess, social media, um, what kind of books do we pick, all that kind of happy stuff. In reality, you can pretty much ask me whatever you want. I will, and I'll elect if I answer your questions because, it's that kind of world. So, for those of you also who've never joined us before, basically, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll go on some rant. I can tell you right now, I'm most likely going to go on a rant today, unless you do pop some lovely questions into the comments section. And basically, all that happens is I will review your questions, I'll repeat them, and then I will respond. Now, if you're watching this and it is not Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, it's not a big deal. All you have to do is go ahead, put your questions into the comments section, and I'll answer at the subsequent one. Because again, we do this every week. Now, sometimes I'll be on my own, like today. Other times I might have one of my acquisition editors with me. I may have some special guests. It all just kind of depends on what's going on that week. So, with that said, or all of that said, a little funny story. So, my whole life, I've had a lot of weight challenges. My weight's fluctuated anything from I'm 5'7". I've been as light as 145. Actually, I think my lightest I was 130, which is a whole nother story. And at my heaviest, I was at like 215. Anyway, when I feel my healthiest and I feel my best is when I work out regularly. So about 5 years ago, around 5 years ago, I decided I was going to work out Monday through Friday, period, end of story. If I didn't feel well, then I would just do like a lighter workout. And on weekends, I would do something. It might be a walk, it could be a run. And by the way, a run for me, like a fast run, is like, a 13-minute mile or something like that. So I'm in by no way, shape, or form any type of athlete whatsoever. Um, anyway, so I decided I was going to, do these workouts regularly, and I joined a gym at my place of work. And I met these just incredible, incredible people. One of the best gym trainers I've ever had. He gave me a lot of guidance in terms of, you know what, just take it easy, really focus on form, be careful, all that kind of stuff, instead of trying to keep up with the Joneses. And what that enabled me to do was actually get very much, much stronger, much more, have much more effective workouts. And I also made a bunch of friends. I'm sorry, my cat's decided she's going to attack my iPad. And that's not really a way to have a good little convo here. So if all of a sudden this goes over, it's probably because my cat's decided that she's going to beat the crap out of my iPad. So this may be a very interesting conversation. I'm just putting that out there. Okay, so my trainer, really gave me a lot of amazing guidance, and I met these fantastic people who I consider them to be part of my family, in all honesty. And one of the other trainers was like, "Hey, Lisa, why don't you try a Spartan race?" And I thought, a Spartan race. Now, mind you, at this point, I had only been working out at the gym for a couple of months. And no, I would have never even considered doing any kind of race, period. like nothing competitive, no way. So, uh, it turned out there was a whole group of people who basically did these Spartan races together, all part of this company. And they really encouraged me to do it and to do the training with them and everything. And what really was amazing with this is not only were they incredibly supportive, but like all along the way in terms of training, and but um, they kind of gave me a pass. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people will go to like a Spartan race or a 5K run or a 10K run or anything like that. And they're like, oh my God, I have to do everything. I have to be number one. And they said, you know what? You just have to do your best effort. So if you're in front of rings and you can't make it across, the waterway or whatever it is, it's not a big deal. You did your best effort, and that's what matters. So my very first Spartan race, it was a 5K at LA Stadium. And no one had warned me that at every Spartan race, the very first obstacle isn't officially on the record. You have to jump over a 5-foot wall. And of course, no one actually literally jumps, right? You kind of climb over it. Well, no one warned me. I had no idea. And I'd done all this research online to see what all the different obstacles were. And so I didn't see that. So I wasn't prepared. And I literally fell over the 5-foot barrier. And, my whole team was like, oh my God, are you okay? And mind you, I was pretty dramatically bruised in various places. I'm sure I sprained something at some point. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Let's just go do it. And I finished. And I still remember my whole team, everybody was waiting for me at the finish line. And when I crossed, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did it. And I could have cried because, like I said, I've never been an athlete. When I was in high school, I did lacrosse for like half a season. I didn't even finish a season. I was so bad. The thought of running was just, it wasn't even a thought. So anyway, these guys were so amazing and they were so supportive and they were so fantastic that it helped me reinforce that need, that desire, that want to continue to work out again, Monday through Friday, no matter what. And through COVID, what I've actually been doing is the CEO of Spartan Races, he has a morning routine and he published it, believe it or not, at the beginning of COVID. And I've been doing his workout. And if anyone's interested in it, just let me know. I'm more than happy. I'll post it for you online. Sorry, my cat's very active today I have no idea why. And so it's like you do 50 push-ups, 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups, I think there's like 17 exercises in total, something like that. Anyway, and so that's actually kind of kept me centered. It's when I first started doing that training, again, Monday through Friday, during COVID, obviously, as I said, I couldn't do 50 of each one. I could do 50 of a lot of them, but there were certain ones that I had to build myself up. And at first it took me, I'd say, about an hour to do all the exercises. And now I can do, I would say, all the exercises between 30 and 40 minutes, something like that, because I focused on form. And by focusing it on form, it enabled me to slowly get faster and faster because I'm doing it correctly. So I'm telling you this whole story because my teammates, about not all of us, I'd say about half of us, we decided, you know what, F COVID, we're going to do a Spartan race. So there was a Spartan race this past weekend at Anaheim Stadium, another 5K. And we went forward, and I actually give everybody who went a ton of credit, because if you think about it, most of us don't have gyms at home. You're not going to be able to do weight training if you don't have a gym at home, right? Not real weight training. Like, I used to do deadlifts regularly. I did a lot of like hanging exercises, things to help me strengthen in terms of like climbing, a lot of more upper body strength, that kind of thing. And so I'm sure quite a few people who were there were in similar situations. And again, we went at it, and the support among everyone is so tremendous. You will see along these races at any point in time someone stopping to help someone else out, either by, if they have to climb over something, give them a little push to help them get over. If they need guidance in terms of, form, helping them with form, giving them little tips and tricks in terms of like the best way to do something so that it's less, you have a lesser likelihood of causing yourself harm. So this is where we get to today's story. So today, one thing it was really funny. So I've been running like 5Ks and 10Ks at home throughout COVID, about once a month, something like that. At first, I was doing it about once every other week, and then I lightened a little bit. I have hip arthritis, blah blah, whatever. Okay, so I thought, okay, I'm gonna do this. And at one point, I realized when I was stopping to lift, because there are obstacles where you have to basically deadlift like 70 pounds, 100 pounds, carry that dead weight up and down a ramp, that kind of thing. And I realized when I'd stopped to pick up the dead weight that my legs and arms were shaking, and which is a sign that you've basically overexerted. And I was like, oh, well, tough noogies, I'm just going to keep going. So I did. So I get to this one, and they call it a zigzag wall. And it's a wall that's literally in a zigzag pattern. And there are holds for your arms and legs. And you're supposed to only move forward across the zigzag wall using these holds, which I kind of did, not really. Anyway, I finished. That's the main thing. I finished the obstacle. And at the very end is a cowbell. And I was like, woo, all right, I did it. This is amazing. I went, woo, and the cowbell went. So all you lucky people get to miss. I don't think you can see it anymore, but I had a really decent cut right on the bridge of my nose. And I'm like, oh, well, that sucks, right? And I go to keep going, and this group of people stop, and they were like, oh my God, it's so cool, you're bleeding. And I'm like, wait, it's cool that I'm bleeding? Okay. And they insisted on taking pictures with me just because they thought it was so cool that I guess I got injured in a Spartan race and I kept going. I don't know. Anyway, at the time it was pretty hilarious. I mean, basically I guess the cowbell didn't technically win because I did finish the Spartan race. I did continue forward. But the cowbell did give me a decent fight during that little escapade. So anyway, for those of you who are joining us and you have never joined us before, I'm Lisa Kastner. I'm the founder and executive editor of Running Wild LLC, which consists of Running Wild Press, where we publish great stories with great writing that don't fit neatly in a box, and RIZE Press, where we publish great genre stories written by people of color and other underrepresented groups. And we are a small press. We're very proud. We've done some great work. We have some phenomenal authors. I'll be honest, I'm proud of everybody that we have the blessing to work with. We have a great team of product managers and authors and editors and acquisition editors. And we publish only around 25, maximum is 25 books per year for each press. And our guys work their heinies off. I mean, they really do some incredible work. We've had 2 books that were named to Best of 2020 by Kirkus Reviews, and 2 books named to Best of 2019 by Kirkus Reviews. And again, I couldn't be more proud of everyone's work in the our entire ecosystem. We started this little live stream so that you guys could have a chance to ask me, again, whatever you want. It can be around acquisitions, around the world of publishing, around the world of marketing, around creative writing, how to dye your hair red. I don't care. Ask me whatever. It's all good. And we do this. We recently changed the date and time. It's now on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And you can ask questions just like Dawn just did. Dawn McIntyre, who just put in the comments, at what point in your publishing process would you need the author to supply blurbs? So that's actually a great question. We recently kind of changed it because we changed distributors, and our distributor has a sales force, and the sales force needs as much information to help them sell the books as possible up front, right? So whereas previously we would be able to wait to get blurbs until, I don't know, 6 months before the publication date or sooner. Sorry, my cat's still very active. And don't worry, she's not getting hurt when I toss her. I'm tossing her onto a couch. Someone actually messaged me about that before. So anyway, and believe it or not, she purrs when I do that. So it's clearly a game at this juncture. Anyway, so what that means, though, by having a sales force who can now back our titles, is that it means that, again, so they need as much information, as much data as they can get to help sell the titles to libraries and bookstores and retailers. And I mean, you name it, right? So I typically ask for folks to kindly get us pitches, not pitches, blurbs as soon as they can. We actually have had authors who already had blurbs like when they submitted their book to us, which was great, right? Because then, work's done. I typically would suggest that you wait to send out your work to get blurbs until you're minimally done your first round of edits with your editor from Running Wild or from RIZE. That way, it's probably 80 to 90% done, most likely. And that way they're reviewing something that's closest to the final product, if that makes sense. And then I would suggest, and then it sets you up so that by the time the piece is fully done, you'll already have these blurbs ready to go. I hope that makes sense, or they'll be close to being ready to go. So, I'd say start sending out for blurbs probably after your first round of editorial review. That's probably your safe bet. And then I'd say maybe give those you're asking blurbs from, give them like, I don't know, 2 months. I think that's fair to review the book, because I'm sure they're all crazy busy, as we all are. So I hope that helps. Mark Williams asks, hey, Lisa. Hey, Mark. Just wondering when you plan to open for novella anthology submissions other than RIZE novella anthology submissions. So that's a great question. We actually just closed the novella anthology submission period for Running Wild. Let me look at, let me pull this up. So we have it every year, hence annual novella anthology. And if we just closed, I think we just closed in June. Sorry for the pause. I'm just looking up because I already have this set up in the in Submittable. Oops. Okay. Haha. Sorry, I now have cat hair everywhere, as I should. Let's see. So, yep, RIZE is current. Come on, you can respond. There it goes. Okay. Okay. So it just expired in May. So we'll reopen again in May of 2021 or May of 2022. Sorry, and we have it open for 1 month. So just keep that in mind. So you've got a decent amount of time that you can go ahead and work on any kind of novellas that you may have in mind. So yeah, May of 2022, May 1st to June 1st of 2022. And then you should also see for our annual short story anthology for Running Wild. That one's in play right now. And oh no, that one will go live, I'm sorry, May as well of 2022. And then it'll expire in June. So why isn't this? That's so weird that it's not responding. There it goes. Okay, that's really strange. Yeah, so I hope that helps, Mark. Amy Hardy asks, do you have any tips for giving a good book pitch? Yes. So I actually suggest that you go and find your favorite author and see if they'd be willing to share with you a book pitch that they used, and then leverage that. Believe it or not, it's so much easier to do a good pitch if you basically leverage the knowledge and experience of someone who's already been successful. I mean, that's true just in general. So I'd say look for that. Maybe see, there are some authors who are really generous and on their websites actually do post material like book pitches. It also sort of depends on what kind of book pitch you're talking about. So if it's a book pitch to an agent, that might be a slightly different pitch than one that you might give to like a TV show or a producer or whatever, because they're looking at for slightly different information. The concept's the same, but the information that they request is a little bit different. There are really great book pitch templates that used to be available online. And I'll be honest, I haven't looked at that in so long. You typically, what we used to say for a really good book pitch was you have like your hook. So whatever that, one sentence, that's something that really kind of makes someone say, oh my gosh, I really want to read that. Then you have your couple sentence description of the story as a lead in. You have your short bio, again, with information that's relevant to whatever it is that you are submitting in your book pitch. And then contact information. That's basically it. That's what I used to use. That's what I'm familiar with. And as well as what genre that the book may be in, because that really helps the agent figure out if it fits in their wheelhouse. So I don't know. I hope that's helpful. You don't want it to be too long. You really want it to be something that's really succinct, get someone's attention. Boom, they want to go right to it. And again, any relevant information. And when I say relevant information, it's not only stuff like, if you're writing about, Paris, that you yourself have traveled to Paris, you also want to do things like if you've got a great social media presence and a lot of people check you out, you want to mention that because that'll be important from a sales perspective. If you've already published a bunch of books and they've done really well, if you've won awards, if you have an MFA, if you have a PhD in creative writing, I don't know, anything like that, right? If you're a journalist, even if you're writing fiction, It shows that you actually have a potential fan base, and also that you're very familiar with working with a professional editor, and that can be very helpful in the decision making process of whether they want to pick you up or not. So I don't know. Yeah, that's basically the gist of it. But I'd say you can find really amazing um, templates online. And again, there at least used to be really amazing authors who had all that available on their websites. So I hope that helps. Cool, cool. Okay. So I'm gonna go off on a tangent again because hey, why not? Because I can. The other thing that I was gonna talk about or blather about or whatever is the Pixel Project. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Pixel Project is, the Pixel Project is a completely virtual, volunteer led, global 501c3 nonprofit organization whose mission is to raise awareness, funds, and volunteer power for the cause to end violence against women using the power of the internet, social media, new technologies, and pop culture and the arts. And the reason I bring this up is I have the great luck to, well, not me personally, but Running Wild Press will be publishing um, Giving the Devil His Due, which is a anthology of amazing short stories that all of the benefits of giving the devil his due will go, all the benefits, all of the funds, right, all the money that we make will be going to the Pixel Project. And I want to talk about this because I really let me read to you the vision. It's a vision of a world where men and women work together to secure the right of women and girls to a life without violence. Violence against women is actively addressed and openly discussed by men and women. Men and boys step up to prevent and stop violence against women. And the mission is to raise awareness, funds, and volunteer power, get men and boys on board for the cause, generate conversation by tearing down taboos and creating safe online spaces, challenge expectations, and inspire activism. Um, you know, growing up, and I've talked about this in the past, but hey, it's worth bringing back up. You know, growing up, I mean, I did grow up in a lower socioeconomic area. I had friends though from all backgrounds. I had friends who were quite wealthy. I had friends whose parents were from new money. I had friends whose parents were old money. I had friends who were middle class, working middle class, you know, blue collar, barely making it. And I had the opportunity to hang out in all those different areas, among all those different cultures, and really kind of experience what it was like. And it made me, as I grew up, pretty good at, or you know, at least I was. We'll see at the end of COVID if I still am. Like fitting in a new environment, and which means makes people comfortable with you if you're an unknown entity within that environment, and so that they're more accepting of you if they feel like you're fitting in, which is, again, it's great. But what this also means is that I'm very aware of the types of abuse that women, no matter their socioeconomic background, no matter where they come from, no matter who they may be, can be exposed to. And, you know, me personally, you know, I've had everything from, you know, at the age of 14, it was literally 2 days after my birthday. I just turned 14, and my father didn't have any money, but he had a credit card. And he said, you can take this card and go ahead and get a manicure and pedicure and whatever you want, right? And I was like in awe because, I don't think at that point I'd ever had a professionally done manicure and pedicure. And so, I was sure not to pick the most expensive place. I was sure to pick a place that was really, um, well within our means. And I remember coming home and some guys across the street, like were checking me out and all that. And at this point in time, at the age of 14, like I mentioned already, I had been fighting my weight my whole life. And all my friends were just these gorgeous women, well, then girls, teenagers, who a lot of them were like literally models. Quite a few were on TV. And because because a lot of us grew up in and around the entertainment industry. My father was a radio personality. One of my best friends, her dad was a folk singer, and anyway, on and on. So, but I had a perception of myself as being just like horribly ugly, because I was comparing myself to my friends who were just stunning, right? And I knew in comparison, one of those where like how you self-identify. I self-identified myself as being really smart, but really just incredibly unattractive. And so I'm 14, and I'm getting cat calls from across the street, and I was just kind of like, okay, well, that's interesting because I didn't know a manicure and pedicure could get you, suddenly you're going to get cat calls or whatever. Anyway, so that night, I go to bed, and I'm woken up at 3 a.m, with a flashlight in my face. And someone had broken into our house, and he had decided that, I was going to be his, plaything for the night. And he shone this bright, flashlight in my face. And I was afraid, as anybody would be, right? And, I just started asking him questions. Why he said, he was like, like, take your shirt off, kiss me, stuff like that. And I said, what would you do? What will you do if I don't? And he was like, I'll kill you. And I said, okay, with what? And he said he had a gun, and he hadn't shown me the gun. So I was like, okay, show me. Now, I know this sounds really bold for a 14-year-old, and I guess in retrospect it kind of was, but I thought, fuck it. If you're going to kill me, then I may as well at least, if you're going to kill me, you're going to kill me anyway. So who gives a shit, right? So he picks up his hand, he lifts his hand, and I guess he didn't think that I actually could see what was in his hand, and it was scissors. It wasn't a gun. So I start laughing because I'm like, you fucker, if you think that you're going to kill me with that, I'm going to kick your fucking ass. Now, mind you, I never I never took jujitsu. I never, took any form of martial arts. I don't know how to shoot a gun. I don't know any of that. But God damn it, I know how to fucking cheat fight. And believe it or not, that is one thing that they do teach kids who grew up in the inner city how to do, because you never know when you need to kick someone in the balls or punch them in the throat. Just saying. So I start screaming, and I go to basically punch him in the throat. And this kid suddenly looks terrified, and he runs. Well, at this point, my screaming must have woken up my mom, because she then came out of her room with a I had a really cheap guitar, like one of those that it's like a trainee guitar. And she takes this guitar and she bangs it over this kid's head and breaks the guitar in two. And this kid goes running out of our house, right? So the end of that sounds really funny. The part that's not funny, obviously, is the entire situation. But also, I don't think this was the same person every time. And I'll be honest, when you're in the middle of being, A, you're woken up in the middle of the night, and B, actually, no, it wasn't the same person every time. Every other year around the same time, somebody else decided to break into my home and try to rape me up until I was 18 years old. And then right before my um, right before my 21st birthday, my house burned down, and it forced us to actually move out of the inner city, out of Camden, New Jersey, and move. It was, I mean, not an experience that I recommend anybody going through, but it is something that it forced us all to make some very serious life decisions and move on with our lives in different ways. So, anyway, I tell you that story just to point out, it's not like if you're not a female and you're not familiar with this, it's not like women sit here and it happens once, like once some guy decides, hey, I'm going to try and have some fun on a date, or, you know, situations like this still happen today. And that, I've been on dates where guys decided that, hey, they're going to have some fun. And then in one or two instances, I did end up either kicking their ass or humiliating them. Usually I didn't have to go to that extreme. I could basically point out that this was not going to happen, and they may want to rethink their idea of what this date meant. And I've had many times, especially when I was growing up. So as I mentioned, I grew up with a lot of very stunning friends who, like I said, were just, one young woman looked like Tia Carrera. If anybody is not familiar with Tia Carrera, she was the love interest in Wayne's World, so you may want to look that up. And I had several other friends who were just simply gorgeous. And a lot of times, we would simply be in a club, or we might be in a bar or in a diner even, and a guy would decide that this was his opportunity to take advantage of her, and I would end up coming to her defense. So I'm telling you all of this because to kind of help point out that the Pixel Project is so insanely needed. From what I have read, it's not like this is getting any better. I don't know why. I don't have any idea why our world has decided oftentimes to go backwards when it comes to things like this. But no woman deserves to be treated that way. No woman deserves to have someone force himself on her. And I'm only talking about in the United States. I mean, slavery still exists in other countries. It does still happen. And it's not an instance where someone's saying, hey, you know what? Today I've decided I want to be enslaved. I want to be kidnapped and then forced against my will to be used in a sexual capacity, which isn't really about sex, by the way. It's about power, just in case you don't know. And if you don't know, I would highly recommend that you actually go and do some research on it. So all of this said, please, 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 if you're watching this, please look up Giving the Devil His Due, being published by Running Wild Press. It is coming out September 1st, our special edition. We're going to have a reissue in 2022. And I just really, really emphatically ask you to buy that anthology. It has some of the most fantastic short stories you will ever find about vengeance, where the one who someone tried to victimize ends up being the victor. And it's something that I only hope that in this world we will reach a point where we don't need to have anthologies like Giving the Devil His Due, where we won't need to have vengeance stories to demonstrate that it's not okay. Hitting is not okay. Verbal abuse is not okay. Physical abuse is not okay. So please pick up Giving the Devil His Due. Comes out September 1st, 2021. And I believe the regular edition will come out, I think we're having it come out in May of 2022. Put it on your bucket list of books to buy. Please reserve a copy. It is absolutely imperative that we, as a community, as a group, as a family, we come together and we fight this. And I also emphatically encourage you to go to the Pixel Project's website, which is the Pixel Project, THEPIXELPROJECT.net. Go and check it out. They have incredible resources on this website that you can use and share for men and for women. So, as I said, please, 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 please check it out. Okay, those were my two things. One, the value of not just team, but of not taking yourself too seriously, and then also working your ass off. And also the importance of the Pixel Project and their mission to basically eradicate abuse against women and girls globally. So with that, we have about 20 minutes left. So for those of you who are joining newly, I am Lisa Kastner. I am the founder of Running Wild LLC, which consists of Running Wild Press, where we publish great stories with great writing that do not fit neatly in a box, and RIZE Press, where we publish great genre stories written by people of color and other underrepresented groups. We are here for you every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And this is your opportunity to ask me whatever the hell you want. Typically, people ask questions around publishing, around storytelling, around books, marketing, social media, all that kind of stuff. It's up to you what you want to ask. I'm good with, whatever you come up with. You could ask me about, what's it like to constantly be attacked by a cat while you're on a live stream. She's right here. I don't know if you can see my hand. She's right here. She was staring at me a second ago and now has elected that she's just going to be pissed off at me, that's fine too. And if you're watching this now and you have a question, go ahead and toss it into the comments section, and I'm more than happy to answer it within reason. We had one where people were asking just really kind of bizarre and juvenile questions. I'm probably going to ignore those, just so you know. Otherwise, if you're watching this and it is not Wednesday or Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, and you have a question, go ahead and toss it in the comments section. I always review these after, and then I'll answer those questions. Now, if by some chance you ask a question later on and I don't catch it, it's not a big deal. You can just ask me during the next one live, and like I said, I'll happily answer it. So Don McIntyre asks, what was the last non-RW or RIZE book you read and loved? Oh, wow, that's a really great question. I actually do a lot of audiobooks now because, right now, I'm the editor for our novella anthology, our 6th novella anthology. So my time is really, my reading time right now is pretty focused on reading those novellas. I'm also typically the first reviewer for any submission that we get. Like, I do a first pass, and then our acquisition editors do a pass. We actually now have a reader who does a pass. But like one that I read, I've been I have been going back and reading Jonathan Mayberry's thriller series. And the last one I read was The Assassin's Code, and I thought that was pretty great. He's very good at, he's very character driven, which doesn't sound right because it's a thriller, and typically thrillers are action driven. But what he does is he actually is pretty fantastic at having it be character driven and action driven at the same time. And he has really complex narratives. I love complex narratives. And I love character driven pieces that it's clear the author has really researched and thought through not just the characters, but the environment that the characters are in, how to leverage it, thought about all the different, like the primary and secondary characters' responses to things. I think it changes the game, like, period. It makes it, the story, like 1,000 times better, personally. I also, and I do that for my own writing, I do a ton of research, both in terms of like online research and just talking to people about their experiences and all that kind of stuff. So um, it really limits the amount of time that I have to actually do fun reading, as, or I guess reading for pleasure. Which actually I was talking to one of my acquisition editors about the other day, that because she's a new acquisition editor with us, and kind of forewarning her that her enjoyment time is probably going to be reduced because, you know, she'll be spending so much time reviewing all the submissions that we get. But yeah, so that one I really enjoyed, Assassin's Code. I really enjoyed Dragon Factory, again, just because I'm going through and like reading the series. Let me see something. Does this tell me? It doesn't. Oh, well, that's sucky. I was just going into, and by the way, I'm a huge advocate of libraries. Most libraries, if you don't know this, they do have audiobooks, and there's an app that libraries have called Overdrive, or they're assigned to, or whatever, that they leverage. You can get Overdrive as an app on your phone, and as long as you have a library card, you can get free audiobooks for, you know, as in Los Angeles, it's for up to 21 days, believe it or not, which is really, really, really cool. It's not just audiobooks, by the way, it's ebooks as well. So, generally speaking, and Ralph Reels asks, what's my favorite genre? So kind of a cop out answer. I grew up reading everything. I read fantasy, sci-fi, magical realism, literary, horror. I went through a Stephen King period. I went through a Toni Morrison period. I went through I read all of the Harry Potters. I don't know that there's a genre I don't like. I went through a romance period when I was like, I don't know, I think I was like 16 or 17. So I don't know. And as I got older and I started writing, and actually I realized I'd kind of been doing this all along as a reader, I was analyzing the stories and the structure of the stories, and kind of seeing like where there was like overlap, or, you know, stuff like that. And so, and I still do that. Like, even though if I'm reading for pleasure, oftentimes what's actually happening is like my subconscious is kind of analyzing the structure and how the characters are being used, and were there opportunities the author didn't elect to leverage, for like maybe a subplot, or some way that the story, somewhere the story could have gone, like that kind of thing. You start getting into that habit because when you're editing your own work, you kind of start looking for that, like where else could I have taken this? What else could I have done? You know, what could have been done, what could have been more interesting, that kind of thing. And because you're doing that with your own work, then you kind of start doing it with other people's works as well. And actually, it's interesting. I'm a mentor for a couple of people with the Horror Writers Association, as well as a few other organizations. And recently, I had someone who sent me a work to review for her, and I looked over it and I gave her some high level notes, and I said, I really recommend you do an analysis, like these kinds of analysis, not against your own story at first, but first do it against stories that you love. So some of your favorite authors. And the reason to do that is it gives you an emotional separation between the work and by doing the analysis on that work, so that when you then do the same analysis on your own stories, you can actually see where you may have room for improvement, or how you can make the story more robust in whatever capacity, right? Whether it's, having more subplots, or having more character development, or having a lot more set in the present versus flashback, or whatever, right? Whatever it is. And she found it really, really helpful. And it's actually, I got that technique. If I remember correctly, I think I was taught that technique by one of my first mentors for, there was a writer's workshop that happened in Philly by invitation. And I don't know why I got invited. And the instructor, I would bug him like crazy to recommend books to read that I could learn from. And so, he would always give me a whole bunch of books that, as recommendations. And then what he always said is, if you really want to learn, analyze these so that you can better learn how they craft story. And that was just such a huge game changer for me. I recommend it to everyone. Whenever you find a story that you are completely enamored with, assess it, analyze it, write notes in the margins, right? Use your highlighter pen so that you can really analyze how this author is accomplishing whatever it is that they're accomplishing, that you are just completely enthralled with. And it will be a huge game changer for you, both from a writing perspective as well as from an editing perspective. So anyway, I hope that helps. Although Ralph, I didn't really answer your question. Ralph has another question. Last question. What do you find the most rewarding about your work? Oh, wow. That's a great question. I find a lot of things rewarding. So why don't we kind of take it in the stages of rewarding, if that makes sense. I love finding new authors or lesser represented authors who really have an amazing voice and an amazing talent for narrative. I'm always shocked when I find out that they've never been published before, or they've only been published by like really small publications. That was true. That was true regarding 2 of the 4 books that were named best of the year. Both authors had never been published before. Their writing voice was just phenomenal. Their storytelling was just amazing, and I'm still in awe that no one had picked them up before. I really also find it incredibly rewarding when I get to work and collaborate with an author and kind of help them take something that has so much potential and really make that story blossom and into something that's just truly phenomenal. That's incredibly rewarding. I'm excited and thrilled when we get stories that are named, win awards, or are named best ofs, or get starred reviews, or get great reviews. Don't get me wrong. When they get a slew of reviews on like Amazon or Goodreads that are like, oh my gosh, this is the best story I've ever read. don't, that's great. But for me, what is really makes my heart sing is the author's reaction. And when I get to be the lucky person to tell them, "Hey, check this out," right? Um, they're always just so. It's like watching a little kid be given like their dream, and it's just so amazing. And then I think the fourth thing that's incredibly rewarding, and this is something I would not have anticipated, and I admit it definitely is one of the reasons why I started RIZE. Um, so when Suzanne Sample's first memoir, Frontal Matter Glue Gone Wild, is about her experience in being diagnosed with brain cancer, and everything that happened after that, including like being ostracized by friends and family, you know, you name it. And we've published books like Suzanne's, and I'd say even stories by like Ruben Tiki Hazlitt, that are stories set in a world um, of like lesser represented individuals, whether it be um, socioeconomic, cultural, whatever, right? When we're reached out to by people who have read these and said they've changed their lives, or they never felt so seen, or they never thought anybody would write about them, right? Like somehow everything that would be published would be about Barbie. And for them to finally have stories written were about the world that they lived in, and or about their family, not directly, right? But meaning this was a world that they actually felt like they've been heard, and they've been felt, they've been seen. That to me is I that is that's a game changer. And I want every book that we publish to do that. I want every book that we publish to be one that people feel heard, they feel seen, they feel like this was written directly for them. That I can't even describe how amazing that is. And in Suzanne's case, we literally had hospitals and cancer support groups buy several copies of the book because they got feedback from people who had read it that it helped them through that such an incredibly painful and trying time, and it helped their families understand what they were going through. And that was amazing. So amazing question, Ralph. I really, really appreciate it. And with that, guys, I'm going to thank you. You guys have asked, incredible questions and put up with my blathering, my little storytelling as well. I love you guys 100%. Thank you so much again for joining us. If you are joining and it is not Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, go ahead, pop your questions in the chat. And until then, I'll see you next Thursday. Have an amazing week, guys. Love you.